Good evening. This regular meeting of the Mount Area School District Board of Education will come to order. It's 7 o'clock. Roll call. Danny.
Here.
Diana. Jeff.
Here.
Jessica.
Here.
Here.
Kimberly. Leah.
Here.
Leah is absent tonight, I believe. I am here. And Kate, I know you're here. Welcome as always. Dr. Salerno, can you certify that tonight's meeting has been properly noticed? Thank you. Let's stand and
Yes,
say
it has.
the Pledge of Allegiance together. I pledge of allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much. It'll be great when we're able to do things like stand for the pledge together like we usually do. Is there a volunteer for the mission statement?
Yes, Rod, I'll read it.
Thank you, Kimberly.
The Mount Horeb Area School District, in partnership with the community, is dedicated to nurturing, educating, and challenging all students, preparing and empowering them to be productive, responsible, and self-fulfilled members of society.
Thank you, Kimberly. Item 2A, approval of the presented or revised agenda. Are there any revisions?
Motion to approve.
Hearing none.
Second.
Is that Diana? I'm sorry.
Yes.
Diana, thank you. Diana has moved. Jeff has seconded a motion to approve the presented agenda. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor will say aye.
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 Those opposed will say no. The ayes have it. The motion carries and the agenda is approved. Item 2B, approval of the January 4th, 2021 regular meeting minutes.
Diana motion. No, second, Diana.
Jeff is moving and Diana seconded a motion to approve the January 4th, 2021 regular meeting minutes. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor will say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Those
Aye.
opposed will say no. The ayes have it. The motion carried and the January 4th regular meeting minutes are approved. Item 3A, school news. Kate.
Hi, everybody. So not too much going on this week. At the high school, though, this week is finals week, which is both stressful and exciting, as it means we're gearing up for our second semester. Secondly, I just wanted to talk briefly about winter sports, which are kicking up right now. So if anyone's looking for a way to support our Vikings, you can live stream those games online. Thank you.
Awesome. Great suggestion on supporting our athletic teams. Thanks, Kate. Dr. Salerno, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, well, Kate, thank you so much, and best wishes to you and all of our students who are participating in final exams. You're right, it can all be at once stressful, but I just know our students are well prepared to plow through and do a great job. I would be remiss, of course, today if I didn't recognize that today is Dr. Martin Luther King's celebration of his birthday. You know, Dr. King called on all of us to give of service to one another. And as I see tonight, we have a Board of Education that's on the call tonight, giving of their time to our community. We thank our board. And we also thank our students. Our board sets the tone and tempo for what our students should do. And we have a number of students who are just doing great things in service to others, even in our very own neighborhoods. In fact, on January 30th, we have a group of students who are going to be joining together at Neighbors Helping Neighbors to fill out several different slots on their calendar, and just a great way to honor Dr. King's legacy. We're thankful to them. And if I could just build off the great comments that Kate made just a few moments ago, tonight as we speak, in fact, probably right now, they're tipping off our girls basketball team is in Barneveld tonight to play another game. Our young people are just so very appreciative of the opportunities this board has given them to compete. For them, it's not just about winning, although that's a nice thing. It's about camaraderie and making lasting memories, and you've given them that opportunity. If I've heard it once over the past several weeks, I've heard it a million times. Thank you. And to our friends at Wisco Radio who are also there, I know that they were broadcasting a couple of games yet this weekend. Lots of opportunities on our district's website for people to capture where they can stream many of these events. Lastly, I also want to recognize that tomorrow night is our community-wide mental health community and coalition meeting. That gets underway at 5:15 p.m. We are meeting virtually. If you'd like to join us, I'll be sure to put that link in tomorrow's board recap. Thanks for the opportunity to speak.
Great, thank you, Dr. Salerno. Is there any other school news? Hearing none, we'll move on to item 3B, citizen comments. Those wishing to speak should text their name, first name and last to 608-250-9166. 608-250-9166. Anyone in your queue, Dr. Salerno?
No, sir.
All right, last call for citizen comments, at least in this portion of the meeting. That number again is 608-250-9166. All right, thank you. We'll move on. Item 4A, personnel transactions. Dr. Salerno?
Well, please allow me this opportunity to recognize 2 employees who are requesting to begin their retirement at the conclusion of this school year. First, after 40 years of teaching in total in 28 in the Mount Horriberry School District, our very dear Barbara Brown is preparing to retire. She is known for working hard with her colleagues to accommodate students, especially those with special needs, to help them accomplish what they previously thought was impossible. She has a way of bringing out the very best in our students as one of our music teachers. Students learn so much more than just songs, one principal wrote in her evaluation. She incorporates history and so much depth into every lesson. And if you know Barb, you know her to be just an absolutely dear and loving woman. Those will be big shoes to fill, to be sure. And then secondly, please allow me to recognize Pam Shaw, who's requesting entry into retirement at the end of the year. She, as you know, helped move this district mountains this past year with the COVID pandemic. But those who know Pam know her to be someone that this was just the latest example of the great things that she's done for our students in this community. She has served on the district-wide safety committee. She actively collaborates with school staff on service projects. And she's instrumental in setting up a number of trainings that we've done here in this district. Everything from CPR to flu shot clinics to our Hep B programs. She's always been there for us. And she tells me, you know, Steve, I'm not leaving because I'm tired. I'm leaving because I know I'm leaving the school district in a really good spot. So Pam, Barb, you're deserving of nothing but the very best, and we congratulate you on your news of your retirement.
Yep. Absolutely, absolutely. The chair would entertain a motion to approve. Jeff has made a motion.
This is Jessica.
Second, Kimberly.
And Kimberly has seconded the motion to approve the personnel transactions. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor will say aye.
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 Opposed will say no. The ayes have it. The motion carries and personnel transactions are approved. Item 5, A, B, and C, consent agenda. Would anyone like any of those 3 pulled?
Motion to approve, Kimberly.
This is Jessica. Second.
Oh, wow. Kimberly has moved. Jessica has seconded a motion to approve the consent agenda. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor will say aye.
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 All those opposed will say no. The ayes have it. The motion carries and the consent agenda is approved. Item 6A, committee member reports, community and legislative committee. Jessica.
Hello. So we did not meet in December, but because of our December full board meeting schedule, I haven't shared with you all what we discussed at our November meeting. So our November meeting was mostly an informative meeting. It followed the November elections. So we talked about the speaker's task force on racial disparities. We talked about the pandemic school stability package. We went over the Wisconsin legislature changes. Dr. Salerno shared with us referendum results that 43 out of 51 across the state passed. We also talked about 2 trainings that the Mount Horeb PFLAG group hosted in Mount Horeb. We also got a preview of what the Board of Education retreat would discuss, particularly focusing on equity, which happened on November 30th. And then Dr. Salerno also shared with us, he is part of the Community Development Authority, so he gave us an update on their meetings. And he also shared with us that he was invited to be a part of the Dane County Emotional Wellness Work Group for K-12 students. And lastly, we got a little bit of a budget update. So that's all that we discussed in November, and our next meeting is next Monday. So I'll have more next month.
Terrific. Thanks, Jessica. Education, Kimberly.
Well, thank you and hello. The Education Committee had 2 main components this month. The first was a teacher demonstration of part of our K-5 math curriculum called Number Corner. It was given to us by several IC staff. We were able to watch recordings of Number Corner live being taught to our students with a chance to ask questions about how our Bridges curriculum is rolling out. And then the second component was hearing from Principal Lundquist and Christensen on the logistics for opening K-12. Our principals have documented many areas that they're currently working through, including safety and sanitation, staffing levels, instructional delivery considerations, and social emotional needs. And also, I know the committee would like to thank our student reps, Tess and Margaret, for adding a really nice student perspective to our conversations on that work. Thank you, Rod.
Thank you, Kimberly. We're moving on now to item 6B, Information and Advocacy Report, Engagement of Employees, Quality of Applicant Pool, and Employee Retention Rates. Ms. Eartham.
Good evening, everybody. How are you doing? Thumbs up?
Wonderful.
We're getting through this pretty quick here. So thank you for letting me talk a little bit about the Information and Advocacy Report that's focused on the quality applicants and our retention of our staff. So a couple of things that I wanted to highlight in this first area is the quality of our applicant pool. As of December 31st, we were able to pull some data, and we've had approximately 43 positions to fill to year to date from that date there. And this number is down a little bit from previous years, which you'll notice in the chart below. A couple of reasons for that is that we are providing this report a little earlier than normal. Typically, you hear from us around probably February, and after we hear from staff around retirements and those sorts of things. So that is one of the reasons that it's a little bit lower. Another reason, is some of the things that the district has been doing to provide support to staff around flexibility, even in the with the pandemic and everything, we've been able to offer different flexibilities such as remote work and balance for our staff that has really allowed for that posting number to be a little bit less. We're not seeing a lot of staff changes. Again, I think that comes down to the fact that we have a great district, passionate employees, people that want to stay here once they get here. So you'll see in here, we have had about 372 certified staff, 68 support staff. That number is definitely a little bit lower. So that's an area that, as we've talked about, we would like to continue to see more applicants coming through in our communities and asking for our communities help in filling things such as our custodial staff, our food service, bus drivers, and paraprofessional staff. And so that gives you a total of 441 applicants year to date. The data in the previous year shows the entire year, and going forward, we'll always go back and update the previous year so we can see that school year as a whole, and then also provide the year to date data as well. One of the things that is impacting the application pool is unemployment. As we know, unemployment has always typically been fairly low. We did see quite a bit of an increase this year, with the national rate reaching 14.7% in April, which is much higher than we've seen in past, but still seeing that, you know, here in the local community that the unemployment rate for Wisconsin is around 5% currently. National rate is 6.7%. So still in Wisconsin, we're lower. And then you really drill it down into Dane County, and you'll notice that it's 3.5%. So that there alone lets us know that we need to continue to, you know, think about how we can keep bringing in candidates and, you know, keep our qualified staff and retain our staff that we've got here. So continue working through all of that. One of the ways that we have been looking to leverage our community and our current staff is by implementing in 2019 a referral system where thereby employees who recommend candidates could that are hired are eligible to receive $100 after 6 months of service. So, you know, one of the things that you'll see a little bit later on is that we really do have a lot of staff looking to support that and support our efforts and share with their friends, their other former colleagues, current colleagues, family members, you know, hey, come work here. It's really great. So that's another great way for our staff to earn a little extra money as well.
Sarah, you're muted.
There we go. Sorry about that. So one of the things that you'll see down in table 2 is one of the reasons that we are also seeing a little bit less is the shortage of staff that are going into the profession. This table here demonstrates data that we were able to glean from DPI since 2012 and 13, and their most recent data is through 18-19 school years. But what this demonstrates is that, as you can see, there's a huge shortage of teachers that are needing to, that aren't in their respective areas and needing to get emergency license, or what's called a 1 year with stipulations, where, for example, you can't find a qualified special education teacher. And so you are finding really great candidates, but not individuals that are licensed, and districts have the opportunity to support that person in furthering their education to become certified in that. So as you can see, it's really dramatically increased, with the 18-19 year being at 3,022 overall, and the majority of that in our teaching staff area. Moving on, one of the other things that we look at is where are we getting our candidates? And this graph here demonstrates that. Again, you'll see WeCan is our number 1 with 9, and that really is a great tool for our certified staff. And then you see behind that the referral and word of mouth. So again, we're seeing employees continue to refer. We're seeing the community members. I remember somebody said that they were at a board meeting and listening in, and they heard Dr. Salerno do the call out for some positions. And so honestly, as much as we think that might be cheesy, or I don't know if it's working, it is. We were able to hire somebody through hearing from that. So just being able to share those opportunities through social media, through other conversations that we're having with people is really helpful. And again, WeCan is that source that really is a great source for our certified staff. That's where educators know to go and look for those positions. I think in our support staff area, we have that opportunity to continue to glean the community, as well as think of other ways that we can source those candidates too. Moving on from there, we have a really positive employee candidate experience rating. So this area here, once we hire someone, we send them a survey about 30 days or so into their time here with Mount Horeb and ask them some questions about what was their experience with through the recruitment process, as well as since they've been with the organization for a little bit. And, you know, when we look at this in 2021, we had a 4.75 rating, which is amazing, excellent work. And that just really speaks to our district welcoming staff, all of our colleagues that are out there, the teachers, the support staff, all of the administrators, the great work that Sarah Straka did with onboarding our staff this year. Again, really making sure that they're prepared for that virtual learning and providing a lot of opportunities for them to learn and develop. So again, really proud of that with an overall average there of 4.51. But I think in a pandemic year, 4.75, I just was really pleased to see that. And I think it just, again, speaks to all the exceptional work that people are doing. And then moving on from there, we've got our employee retention rate. In this area, you'll see we've had, since our January 4th, so our last meeting, we've had 4 retirements and 14 resignations this year. Last year, we had a total of 43 resignations and retirements. So you can see that number is definitely lower, with a turnover rate for our teaching staff at 1.57%. So again, people are looking to stay here. This year, there's been a lot of opportunities to be flexible with staff, which has helped us retain them as well. And so, you know, again, we want to continue building on that great work that we've got going on here. Looking kind of at a couple other things. Again, we're providing this report a little earlier, so that's something to keep in mind. And we also did extend the retirement notification date out to February 1st as well. So those numbers could change. And again, we'll update those for the next year report. But here you can see the year-to-date data for 2021 of turnover rate by classification. And this really looks at the different categories of staff that we have. And again, with those lower numbers, you know, we're seeing lower overall turnover rates, which is really great. And then just moving on to our last area is our exit interview survey data. This is an area that, as we have seen over the past couple of years, we haven't really gotten a lot of responses. So it's obviously an area for us to think about how we can connect with more people as they're leaving to really get that valuable feedback on what we can do to improve. But what you see here for the information we've received for the school year thus far, we've had one individual leaving because they were relocating and a couple of staff leaving due to family reasons. So again, overall, I think, you know, there's been a really a lot of great work happening at the building levels, at the administration level, with the Board of Education supporting our staff as well, and the community supporting our staff. There's obviously some areas that we could grow a little, and one of the things that we want to make sure we're always doing is aligning our compensation, which we'll talk a little bit more about next month. We'll be looking at all of that information. And again, just another plug. Obviously, we still are looking for those paraprofessionals, custodian, bus drivers, food service staff. So if you know of anybody, we can get creative. So questions on that data?
Hi, Sarah. This is Kimberly. I just looking at the trend of the special ed paras and how high those statistics are. Can you tell me how many special ed paras we employ so I can understand that number better?
I do not know that off the top of my head, but can get back to you. We've actually been looking at those numbers as we've been looking at some different pieces, and so I can share that out with you.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Yeah.
Hi, Sarah. Thank you for your report. This is Jessica. I have just a couple of questions. Well, or, well, actually neither, just comments. One area that, I know that recruiting and hiring educators is incredibly difficult right now. As you said, there's not a huge pool, but related to our equity work, whatever we can do to try to create a more diverse workforce, I think would be, ideal if that's possible. And then I just wonder, this is me being pie in the sky. What can we do in terms of if we have paras who are, long time in our schools and interested in being educators, what can we do to sort of nurture those relationships? And related to Kimberly's point, the special ed, the turnover, what can we do to provide additional training and, just professional learning for them so that they feel more vested and supported and want to stay longer. And then this is really long term, but like what can we even do to encourage some of our own students to pursue teaching and then want to teach here? Like how can, none of those are like, will help us next month, but like trying to think long term, how can we try to build our teaching staff?
Yeah, I think those are all really great thoughts. The diversity piece is definitely something we have talked about, and I know there have been some recommendations or information shared from, I want to say Percy, if I remember, Brian and Sarah Straka, no, for sure. So those are things that we want to look at and see how we can build those into possibly into our postings. How can we, I think the work that we're going to be doing with our equity work is going to be really helpful, because the other thing we want to be mindful of is bringing those individuals into an environment where they feel comfortable, right? And we don't want to put the cart before the horse, and not saying that people wouldn't feel comfortable, but just something to keep in mind too, that we want to make sure we're doing our work alongside. And so I think that's another thing that we can talk about as we think about interviews and those sorts of things, to talk about the work that we are doing, and that will help. And then, like I said, I know there were some suggestions on that. The other thing I wanted to just comment on, and I think we do want to think about too, is how are we working with our internal staff? We have had some people express interest in becoming maybe a special ed teacher. And so one of the things that we are doing, I think Brian, I was maybe having some conversations with an individual, is to say, hey, what does this look like for you? How can the district support you in this? Because I agree, if we can grow people internally, that's going to help them feel great about themselves, to be able to grow and develop and see that career path at the district. So where we can do that, we absolutely want to do that as well. We actually this year did have a former student join us in our family consumer science. So that was really cool to see her return. And the other thing is too, in our substitute pool, I've had a lot of staff, newer substitutes, reach out to say, hey, I've kind of thought about education, and I don't know if it's right for me or not, but hey, I thought about substituting. That's a great start for me. And so that's another opportunity. I think, how can we look at our substitute pool and think about, because it's not just retired teachers, there's other individuals that are pursuing their education background. And so if they have a good experience with us, we can look at that. And we actually had an individual that we hired this year as well, who was a substitute with us, who had gone back to school. So again, it's really kind of cool to be able to see those things come to fruition and share those stories.
If you don't mind me also adding in, I know of three paraprofessionals that currently are doing the paraprofessional to teacher pipeline within our district. And some of the things we do to help support those paraprofessionals is be flexible with their schedule so that they could get to classes, also affording them time off for final exams. I'd love for us to be able to find dollars that might be a scholarship, some way in which we can step them into the profession. And of course, our MHEA always does a nice job of raising dollars for people who aspire to be teachers as well. And to Kimberly's first question with regard to the number of special education paraprofessionals, I believe that number, total number we have is about 72. But let me do some more work on that to give you an understanding as to how many paraprofessionals we have, and then differentiate that out by special ed. You can see, though, the percentage of people in our turnover rate is significantly lower than the industry average. This despite the fact that we are paying our paraprofessionals significantly less than our comparables. And I know that's something the board worked very hard to remediate last year. In fact, an extra dollar was added to the wage schedule, but that still does put us a bit behind our comps. And many people may think our comps should be west of Mount Horeb, but in reality, our comps really are east of Mount Horeb. So let us continue to work on that. I'm eager to see the information and advocacy report that Sarah pulls together on our comps when we visit in closed session next month.
Great. Other questions or comments for Sarah?
President Heiss, if you don't mind me just mentioning, about a year ago, we were looking for a human resources coordinator, as our human resources coordinator was preparing to relocate down to Florida, and we were all putting our faces in our hands and thinking, oh my goodness, where are we going to find a good one? Well, boy, did we get really lucky. Sarah Eartham, as you can tell by the report that she's filed tonight, is just absolutely up to the task. Now more than ever, being a human resources professional is very difficult work. It can quite frankly be very draining, listening to and taking home some of those very personal and intimate stories that people are having to endure during the pandemic. But our Sarah Eartham continues to just do an exemplary job of being compassionate to those we serve while being very solutions oriented where we can. Sarah, this is just the latest example of your great work. Thank you so much for choosing to be a Viking. We're better because of you.
Oh, thank you. And I'll have to say, my sister-in-law has shared the posting with me. So again, word of mouth.
Oh, we should give her $100.
All right, very good. Keep up the great work, Sarah. You're doing a wonderful work for the district, for our teachers and kids, and thanks for all you do. All right, moving on to item 6C, COVID-19 update. Dr. Salerno.
Just a few updates for you this evening, board members. The first of which is planning continues for the launch of our Intermediate Center program beginning February the 1st. We are looking forward to our second town hall meeting with Intermediate Center families. That will get underway on January 25th from 5 to 5:45 p.m. We've really found these to be great opportunities for our families to ask questions they may have and for each building's administration to kind of outline the individual nuances of their building's schedules and procedures and routines. And so what we did host a session back in late December for intermediate centers. Now that we have a little more meat on the bones, we'd like to re-invite families and students, for that matter, to join us on the night of the 25th of January from 5 to 5:45 p.m. Principal Katie Hauge will share information directly with families. And for those in the middle and high school who are wondering, well, what about us? Can we have another visit? The answer to that is yes. We're tentatively looking at middle school occurring on Wednesday evening, February 10th, and high school occurring, another town hall occurring on Thursday, February the 11th. More details to follow there. We're also pleased to announce tonight, board members, that almost 50 employees from Mount Horeb were identified as Tier 1A recipients of the COVID vaccination. Moreover, it appears as though Tier 1B vaccination could advance even as Tier 1A is being completed. Why is that important? Well, Tier 1B calls for, at least tentatively, it's through open comment right now, but Tier 1B calls for teachers and others who work directly with students on a day-to-day basis to receive the vaccination next. Currently, we are attempting to source vaccinations from multiple vendors. We're reaching out to our healthcare provider, our health insurance provider. We're looking at DHS, PHMDC, and other resources to see how we can get our staff first in line in this effort. Our dissemination plan really will be dictated by the number of vaccinations received at any one time and when it is received. Why is that important? It's important because in some instances, we're hearing that, for example, PHMDC received 873 new round of vaccinations on Thursday of last week, and they were told that they needed to expend it, disseminate it by Saturday. So it was really a quick, almost not even 48-hour turnaround time if they were going to accept that vaccination. So it would be our preference to receive an allocation that reflects the total number of people who would qualify for the vaccination, such that we could administer it all at once at various sites within our building on a designated day. Our thinking would be, if we received that allocation all at once and we had enough time to plan, we might call school for the day so that we can ensure that everyone in our school district employee set can receive that vaccination. If we're not fortunate to receive that total sum of vaccination at the same time, and we have to do it in small batches, we would likely be doing it, vaccinating as it becomes available. We know this much is true, is that we are preparing for all possible scenarios for dissemination of the vaccine. We'll have very little notice as to when that occurs, and moreover, if we did have ample notice, it would still be an issue for us as to where to store the vaccine. As I'm sure many of you know, the district does not have the means to keep the vaccine at the requisite temperatures, at least one of the vaccines in that regard. So we don't have the ability to keep it less than, I think, 173 degrees below zero. So we'll continue to keep you posted. We'll continue to keep our staff posted. And we just really thank everyone for all they're doing to help support our efforts. At this time, I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Questions or comments for Steve? All right. Hearing none, we will move along then. Item 7A, consideration to 2020-21 calendar, which permits high school students earlier return to in-person learning. Dr. Salerno.
Thank you again, board members. I know that we came to you recently to talk about our school district calendars, and you were so gracious as to approve some things for us to notify families of our launch. You know, we started to really put together a schedule that we thought could really be viable, and then we looked at February 26th, as you can maybe see here. That was already scheduled to be a day off for all children. Typically, that's a day that is used as a snow makeup day. And as you know, we haven't had to have too many of those this year. And it became clear to us, thanks to the leadership of Cody Lundquist, that, well, couldn't we just try to get our kids at the high school back sooner? And that's why we're here with you tonight. We're asking the board to please consider this opportunity for us to shift a few things since the last time we visited on January 4th. And that would be to move that non-school planning time for staff, primarily time for teachers who might want to provide some individualized work for advanced placement courses and the like, but primarily time for staff to plan for kids to be coming. Move that away from February 17th, 18th, and 19th, and rather move it to the front end of the week, February 17th through the 18th. And then ask to have our L through Z students, last names L through Z, have school on February the 18th. That gets us started a couple of days earlier. What would this do? Obviously, it gets our kids back to school sooner, but more importantly, it allows even more in-person instructional time. We recognize that, well, first, we apologize for having to throw this curveball to you and to the public. So after you guys had approved all those calendars, but we just thought it's best to ask the question to see if there can be some flexibility once we realize that we can actually get to a really good place with kids. So we're asking for your thoughtful consideration here, please.
Motion to approve revised calendar.
Danny has moved.
Second, Diana.
And Diana has seconded. alterations to the 2020-2021 calendar that permits high school students to return earlier to in-person learning. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor will say aye.
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 Those opposed will say no. The ayes have it, the motion carries, and the alterations to the 2020-2021 calendar are approved. Item 7B, consideration of open enrollment availability for 2021-2022 school year. Mr. Johnson.
Yeah, so this is annually, we look at these numbers and approve them the second meeting every January. So when you look at the general education numbers, what we really look at is what are the maximum class sizes minus one student for move-ins. And then we allocate open enrollment spots based on those numbers. As typical, there are a couple of grades that we would not allow any open enrollment students into. Majority of grades, though, we would allow open enrollment students into those grades. Then based on special education numbers, if it's a 0, obviously for kindergarten, it's going to be a 0 for special education students as well. But then we base based on class sizes for what we would allow for additional or for caseload sizes for the case manager, what would be allowed per grade based on special education numbers. Our caseload numbers for speech and language, hearing impairment, vision impairment, and OT and PT are very high. And so we automatically, if those services are in the IEP, it would not be allowable for open enrollment. Otherwise, you have the list, and that's who we would allow in for this upcoming school year.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Danny has moved and Jeff has seconded a motion to approve the open enrollment availability for 2021 and 2022. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor will say aye.
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 Aye. Aye.
Those opposed will say no. The ayes have it, the motion carries, and the open enrollment availability table that Brian has displayed for the 21-22 school year is approved. Item 7C, consider alterations to fee for the winter 2020-2021 participants. Mr. DeYoung.
Well, good evening, everybody. Hope all is well. You may recall that back in the spring, the Board of Education considers all of the student fees for the upcoming school year. And traditionally, our athletic fees are set at $75. Last Monday at our Finance Committee meeting, the group discussed the possibility of considering reducing the athletic fee from $75 down to $25. The purpose, of course, would be to simply recognize the fact that winter sports has been significantly reduced. And we felt like doing something for reducing that fee would be worthy of consideration. So, like I said, we talked about it at the committee last Monday. And we felt as a committee that it would be worth bringing it to the full board for further discussion and possible consideration.
This is Kimberly. Motion to approve.
Second, Diana.
Second.
Kimberly has moved and Diana has seconded a motion to alter the fee schedule for winter 2020-21 participants. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor will say aye.
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 Those opposed will say no. The ayes have it, the motion carries, and the fee schedule for winter 2020-21 participants is altered. Item 8A, citizen comments. Those interested in making a comment should send a text to 608-250-9166 with your name and first name and last name. Is there anyone who'd like to make a citizen comment? Going once. Going twice. Moving on to item 9A, future agenda items. Is there anything that you'd like to highlight, Dr. Salerno? Of course, anyone can make a suggestion for this list.
Nothing really to note other than we are hoping to pull together a Board of Education workshop, looking to do something maybe around February the 8th. Thank you to those board members who've been able to respond thus far.
Great, good.
I have a question.
Anything else?
Did you ever, saw a meeting at 5:30 or 6? Because tonight it was at 6, but on the next one it says 5:30. I just wanted to be sure.
Thank you for capturing that. No mistake on our part. It looks like it should have said 6 o'clock.
Okay.
Awesome, thank you. Item 10, schedule of next meetings. Dr. Salerno, is there anything worth noting on that schedule?
No, sir.
Very good. Item 11, closed sessions for two purposes. First, 11A, contemplated closed session per section 19.85, paragraph 1, subparagraph E, deliberating or negotiating the purchasing of public properties, the investing of public funds, or conducting other specified public business whenever competitive or bargaining reasons require a closed session. And 11B, contemplated closed session per section 19.85, paragraph 1, subparagraph C, considering employment, promotion, compensation, or performance evaluation data or of any public employee over which the governmental body has jurisdiction or exercises responsibility.
So move.
Second.
Jeff has moved and Diana has seconded a motion to go into closed session for both purposes. We'll take a roll call. Danny?
Yes.
Danny's a yes. Diana?
Yes.
Diana's a yes. Jeff?
Yes.
Jeff's a yes. Jessica?
Yes.
Jessica's a yes. Kimberly?
Yes.
Kimberly's a yes. And I am a yes. The yeses are 6. The noes are 0. And we'll move into closed session in 5 minutes. The link to the closed session meeting was in our weekly update from the superintendent. If you need it, send me a text and I'll send it to you. We'll see you in 5 minutes.